Being sedentary isn't just bad for your health. According to a study of 122,000 patients published in JAMA Network Open, individuals in the bottom quarter of cardiorespiratory fitness had a higher risk of dying from any cause than those who smoke, than those with hypertension, than those with type 2 diabetes. That was a clinical referral population, people referred for treadmill testing. But 3 independent studies now converge on the same direction, the largest tracking 750,000 people for 20 years. Not combined, each one individually. The biomarker behind that finding is called VO2 max, and there is a meaningful chance you have never measured yours. VO2 max, maximal oxygen uptake, is the measurement of how much oxygen your body can extract and use during maximum physical effort. It is the single most comprehensive indicator of your cardiovascular and metabolic system's combined capacity. Your heart pumps oxygenated blood. Your muscles extract it and burn it for energy. The rate at which your entire system can perform that exchange, measured in milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute, is your VO2 max. And unlike a blood test or a scan result, it captures something that no static biomarker can: how your cardiovascular system performs under load, how it performs when it has to. Resting biomarkers tell you what your engine looks like in the driveway. VO2 max tells you what it does at the limit of the highway. 3 questions this episode will answer. First, what is your VO2 max right now? And does that number put you in the bottom quartile, the middle of the pack, or ahead of the population for your age? Second, if your number is low, what is the fastest and most evidence-supported way to move it? Third, does the type of exercise you do actually matter? Or is any movement roughly equivalent? The answer to that last one will probably change what you do in the gym this week. Let's establish what the data actually says. Mansager and colleagues at the Cleveland Clinic followed 122,007 patients who underwent exercise treadmill testing over a decade. They divided subjects into 5 fitness groups: low, below average, above average, high, and elite. Then they tracked mortality. The finding: being in the low fitness group was associated with a mortality hazard 5 times higher than the elite group. That number by itself is notable, but the researchers went further. They compared the mortality risk of low fitness against individual risk factors. Low fitness was associated with a higher risk of death than smoking, then hypertension, then diabetes. Not in combination, each one independently. This was not a small study with confounded data. It was 122,000 patients, multi-decade follow-up, adjusted for age, sex, BMI, and cardiovascular risk factors. The largest study in the fitness mortality literature tracked 750,302 U.S. veterans over 20 years. It found the same inverse association across all age groups, both sexes, and every racial subgroup analyzed, every single one. Metabolic equivalent of task, MET, increase in fitness was associated with an 11 to 17% reduction in mortality risk, and the greatest benefit occurred at the lowest fitness tier. Moving from the least fit group to the next tier up produced the largest single mortality reduction in the dataset. Here is why this matters to you specifically. Not as an abstract population statistic. The mortality risk isn't concentrated in people who are sick. It's distributed across people who are simply unfit, people who feel fine, who go to work, who exercise occasionally. The bottom quartile isn't what you imagine it is. VO2 max is not static. It declines with age. A longitudinal study tracking 800 adults directly measured this trajectory over decades. The findings: sedentary individuals lose approximately 10% of their VO2 max per decade in their 40s. But that rate does not hold constant. It accelerates, rising to 15% per decade or more after the age of 70. By age 60, a sedentary person has roughly half the cardiorespiratory capacity they had at 30. That is not inevitable wear and tear. That is a trajectory that reflects lifestyle choices compounding over decades, and one that accelerates unless interrupted by structured training. Physically active individuals retain significantly higher absolute VO2 max values across the lifespan, but even in trained individuals, some age-related decline is normal. The biological mechanisms include declining cardiac stroke volume, reduced maximal heart rate, and decreasing mitochondrial density and skeletal muscle. Now, the reframe that changes the entire conversation about this biomarker. VO2 max is not fate. It responds to training with a speed that most people significantly underestimate. The Heritage Family Study, one of the most rigorous exercise response RCTs conducted, trained 481 previously sedentary adults on a standardized 20-week aerobic program. Mean VO2 max improvement, 17%. That number is significant, but the distribution within it is equally important. Individual responses ranged from 5% at the low end to 40% at the high end, all from the same protocol. Genetics account for a meaningful portion of that variance. What this means practically: some people will see large VO2 max gains from the same training intervention that produces modest gains in others. The protocol matters. Individual response must be tracked. You cannot assume the population mean applies to you. That question from earlier, does the type of exercise matter? It does, significantly. Research on training intensity distribution, how you split your exercise time between low, moderate, and high intensity, shows that where most people spend their training time is not where the VO2 max adaptations are greatest. Analysis of elite endurance athletes, the best studied group for VO2 max optimization, consistently shows approximately 80% of total training volume at low intensity and approximately 20% at high intensity. Very little time in the moderate zone. This is called the polarized training model. The mechanism: low-intensity training optimizes fat oxidation and mitochondrial density. High-intensity intervals drive cardiac output adaptations, the primary driver of the VO2 max ceiling, and trigger the AMPK to PGC1-alpha signaling pathway in muscle cells, which drives mitochondrial biogenesis. In practical terms, any sustained effort where conversation becomes difficult activates that pathway. You do not need laboratory-grade sprint intervals. The moderate zone, where most recreational exercisers spend the majority of their time, does neither as effectively. A direct comparison randomized trial by Esteve Lanao and colleagues found that competitive male distance runners following a polarized distribution improved VO2 max more than those concentrating training in the moderate zone. The implication: if your current cardio is primarily moderate intensity, a pace that feels somewhat hard but sustainable, you may be training in the zone that produces the smallest cardiovascular adaptation relative to time invested. The science suggests that going easier most of the time and harder some of the time outperforms always staying in the middle. One more point. For the exercise volumes this episode calls for, 4 sessions per week at 45 minutes, there is no evidence of a cardiovascular harm threshold. At extreme competitive training loads, the picture is more nuanced. To know whether any of this is relevant to you specifically, you need a baseline number. The gold standard is a cardiopulmonary exercise test, a supervised lab test measuring expired gases while you exercise to maximal exertion. This gives a precise VO2 max value. Available through sports medicine clinics and university exercise science departments, typically at a one-time cost of $150 to $300. A validated free alternative is the Rockport 1-mile walk test. Walk 1 mile on a flat course as briskly as possible. Fast walk, not a jog. Record your finishing time and your heart rate immediately at completion. Then enter both into the Rockport equation along with your age, sex, and body weight. Use it to establish a baseline and track directional progress, not as a clinical measurement. It tells you which tier you are likely in and whether that tier is moving. Once you have your number, compare it to normative data stratified by age and sex. Are you in the bottom quartile, the top? The goal of this episode's protocol is to identify your starting position and move it. Now you know the track. It's time to look at the stack. Here's what to do with your number. Tier 1, free. The free protocol requires no equipment, no app subscription, and no gym membership. It requires only structured intention. Polarized training 4 times per week. Each session 45 minutes. Structure: 80% at an effort level where you can hold a full conversation. You should be able to answer a question in complete sentences. 20% at an effort level where you cannot, where speaking more than a few words is difficult. This can be applied to walking, running, cycling, swimming, or any sustained aerobic activity. In a 45-minute session, that ratio means approximately 36 minutes at low intensity and 9 minutes at high intensity, not necessarily continuous. The principle, more low-intensity volume, deliberate high-intensity sessions, minimal moderate zone, remains the most evidence-consistent approach available to this audience. Retest with the Rockport walk test at 90 days. Track the number. If it is not moved, the protocol needs to change before the tool. Tier 2. A structured training plan delivered through a platform like Training Peaks or a comparable coaching app adds 2 evidence-adjacent advantages. It builds the polarized distribution into your week, so you do not have to self-manage intensity zones, and it provides structured progression, increasing volume and intensity appropriately over a 12 to 16-week adaptation arc. This tier also includes a wrist-based VO2 Max estimation from a GPS fitness watch. Garmin, Polar, or Coros use proprietary algorithms that estimate VO2 Max from resting and exercise heart rate data. These are not clinically precise, but they track directional trends reliably across weeks. No RCT validation for consumer wearable VO2 Max accuracy exists. Uses trend data, not absolute measurement. The one-time device typically falls in the $150 to $250 range. The subscription cost for a structured plan platform is approximately $15 to $20 per month. Together, they convert the free tier's intention into a measurable progressive system. The premium tier is not a recurring monthly subscription. It is a one-time diagnostic investment with a 90-day retest structure. Baseline cardiopulmonary exercise test, or CPET, $150 to $300. This gives you a precise VO2 max, your actual heart rate zone thresholds, which make the polarized training model in Tier 1 dramatically more accurate, and a clinician's interpretation of your result in the context of your age and sex norms. 90 days later, a second CPET. The difference between your baseline and retest is your training response. If you are a low responder, in the bottom of the heritage variance range, you will see this at 90 days and can adjust your protocol before investing another year in a suboptimal approach. The measurement precision from the CPET feeds back into the Tier 1 protocol. Your actual Zone 2 and Zone 5 heart rate thresholds are now evidence-based, not estimated. The premium tier makes the free tier more effective. The verdict on VO2 Max. Evidence rating, 4 stars out of 5. Multiple large cohort studies. 1 randomized clinical trial on trainability. Moderate RCT evidence on polarized training in non-athlete populations. Strong association with mortality outcomes, modifiable at any age. Retest time frame, 90 days. The free tier, polarized walk-run protocol, 4 sessions per week, 80-20 intensity split. Mid-tier, structured training platform, plus GPS watch trend tracking. Premium tier, baseline CPET plus 90-day retest for precise zone calibration. VO2 Max tells you the capacity of your cardiovascular engine. The next biomarker tells you how efficiently that engine is idling when not doing anything at all. Your resting heart rate, what the evidence says the optimal range actually is, what it currently is for most adults who consider themselves healthy, and what moves it measurably in less than 4 weeks. We'll talk about it on episode 3. Subscribe so you don't miss it.